How long does it take a hacker who breached the accounting department to steal the software team's source code? If your network is set up wrong, just seconds. Imagine a three-story office building. Accounting, HR, and the software team all share one massive network. This creates two huge problems. First, performance. When an accounting computer sends a broadcast packet, basically shouting, "Hey, can anyone hear me?" that message hits every single device in the building. The 50 computers on the software team receive this useless data and dump it. As more devices join the network, this noise multiplies. The network slows down and crashes. This is called a broadcast storm. But the second, much bigger danger is security. With everyone on the same network, a hacker faces zero barriers. They breach the accounting department and stroll right into HR files and critical servers. The solution? Dividing this massive setup into isolated logical pieces called subnets. Now, every department has its own subnet. Broadcast noise from one area can't pass the router. Traffic stays clean. For security, even if a hacker compromises the HR department, they hit a solid wall, a router or firewall, before reaching anywhere else. And strict security rules are waiting for them there. The art of splitting a network into fast, secure segments is called subnetting. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how IP addresses work, what a subnet mask does, what CIDR notation is, and how to do subnet math. So, let's start at the very beginning. But before we dive into theory, let me show you something. If you're on Windows, you can see your own IP address and subnet mask right now. Open the command prompt and type ipconfig. A bunch of information just appeared on your screen. But right now, only two lines matter to us: IPv4 address and subnet mask. These two numbers are at the very heart of this video. Now let's start understanding what they actually mean. An IP address is a unique identifier assigned to every device on a network. Computers need this address to communicate with each other. Think of it like a home address. Without an address, the package can never reach you. Today we're talking about IPv4. An IPv4 address is a 32-bit numerical address, but instead of writing all 32 bits in one long line, we split them into 4 groups and separate each group with a dot, so humans can actually read it. For example, 192.168.1.107, each of those 4 number groups is called an octet, and the value of each octet ranges from 0 to 255. But why 255? The answer is buried in binary. Computers don't actually get the decimal numbers we use. All they know is ones and zeros, on and off. So behind the scenes, every IP address is processed strictly in binary. Each octet is just a group of 8 bits, with values going from 128 down to 1. If a bit is 1, we count that value. If it's 0, we just pass. So if we take 192.168.1.107, for 192, we just flip on 128 and 64. For 168, we light up 128, 32, and 8. For 1, only the very last bit on the right turns on. And for 107, we switch on 64, 32, 8, 2, and 1. Put those 4 together, and that's what the computer is actually looking at under the hood. The only reason we convert it to decimal is because human brains aren't built for endless ones and zeros. An IP address is made up of 2 parts, the network part and the host part. Now we get to an important question. Why does an IP address have 2 parts? The answer: manageability. The network part tells you which network the device belongs to. The host part tells you which specific device it is within that network. Think of it like a street address. Baker Street, number 42. Baker Street is the network part, and number 42 is the host part. Without the street name, the door number is useless. Without the door number, you can't find the right building. The same logic applies to networks. A router receives a packet and first asks, which network is this going to? Network part. Then it asks, which device on that network? Host part. Here's the thing. When you look at an address like 192.168.1.109, you can't tell which part is the network and which part is the host just by staring at it. The IP address simply doesn't tell you. And that's exactly where the subnet mask comes in. It looks just like an IP address, but it serves a completely different purpose. It has one job: to show us which bits of the IP address belong to the network and which bits belong to the host. If you look at it in binary, like on the screen right now, it follows one very simple rule. The ones represent the network part. The zeros represent the host part. So in this first example, the first 24 bits are all ones. That means the first 24 bits of the IP address are the network and the last 8 bits are for the host. Now look at the second example. This time, the first 16 bits are network and the remaining 16 bits are host. It's split right down the middle. And in the last example, it narrows down even further. Only the first 8 bits are for the network, leaving a massive 24 bits all to the host. But did you notice something? Writing out these long subnet masks every single time gets pretty tedious. So network engineers came up with a much shorter way to express them: CIDR notation. The logic behind it is incredibly simple. You just count the total number of ones in the subnet mask and write that number right after the IP address with a /. If you look at the table on screen, you can see how straightforward it is. 8 ones give you /8, 16 ones give you /16, 24 ones give you /24. So whenever you see an address like 192.168.1.0/24, just run this in your head. The first 24 bits are for the network, and the remaining 8 bits are for the host. It's way faster to write, easier to read, and it's what you'll run into constantly in the real world. So far, here's what we've covered. An IP address has a network part and a host part. The subnet mask tells us which is which, and CIDR notation is just a shorthand for expressing that. But now the real question: what do we actually need to do to divide a network? Let's work through a concrete example. Say you're the network admin for a small company. You've been given this network. The company has 3 departments: accounting, HR, and the software team, and we want to isolate them into 3 separate subnets. So how do we do it? Let's look at our current subnet mask in binary. The last 8 bits are entirely reserved for hosts. That means we have one network with 254 usable device addresses. I'll explain in a moment why 2 addresses are missing, but we don't want one network, we want 3 networks. This is where the core mechanic of subnetting kicks in. We lend host bits to the network portion. The more bits we borrow, the more subnets we get, but at the same time, the number of usable hosts in each subnet shrinks. There's always a trade-off between the 2 sides. 2 simple formulas will serve us well here, where n is the number of bits borrowed. This tells us how many subnets we'll get, where h is the number of host bits remaining. We subtract 2 because 2 addresses in every subnet are always reserved. The first address is always the network address. It basically represents the subnet itself, so you can't actually assign it to any device. The last one is the broadcast address. Whenever you want to reach every single device in that subnet at once, this is the address you use. Again, no device can have this one either, so those 2 are always taken and off limits. Everything in between, that's your usable range. Now let's see what happens when we borrow different numbers of bits from our /24 network. As you can see, one side grows, the other shrinks. It's always a balancing act. We had 3 departments, so we needed at least 3 subnets. When we look at the options, borrowing 1 bit only gives us 2 subnets. That's not going to cut it. But borrowing 2 bits gives us 4, which does the job. Now here's the thing. Even though we only actually need 3 subnets, we still have to borrow 2 bits, because 2 to the power of 1 is 2, and that falls short. 2 squared is 4, and that works. So that 4th subnet, it just stays empty. And honestly, that's completely fine, totally normal. So our new subnet mask becomes 255.255.255.192, which is /26. And in binary, that looks like this. Now let's calculate the IP ranges for each of these 4 subnets. How many addresses does each subnet cover? 2 to the power of 6 equals 64 addresses, so each block is 64 wide. Accounting goes into subnet 1, HR into subnet 2, the software team into subnet 3. Subnet 4 sits empty, ready for whenever a new department comes along. And that's the whole idea. You borrow bits from the host side, give them to the network side, and suddenly you have more, smaller, isolated networks. Remember that hacker in accounting? Without subnetting, they're in the source code in seconds. With it, they hit a wall, and now you know how to build that wall.